Hey there, and welcome to No Recipe Required. How you doing? I'm Dave, and you're getting a scruffy Dave because it's the end of a 3-day weekend, and I don't like to shave. But I do like to cook, and tonight I've got a grilled steak for you. I've got some flank steak. I'm going to do it, obviously, out on the grill. We're going to go through that. And this is going to be a pesto flank steak. I've got some pesto. I've showed you how to make it before. We're going to slather that on and give that kind of basil, garlicky taste to the steak. It's absolutely delicious. Let's go ahead and get this started. Okay guys, so we've got our flank steak here, and this is what we're going to use for our pesto flank steak. I just took it right out of the out of the paper from the butcher. I like to give these steaks just a quick thumping with my hand. I'm not sure if it really tenderizes it or does anything other than lets me take out a little frustration, but I seem to like it. So about 45 minutes before I intend to cook it, I'm going to take it out of the fridge and I'm going to season both sides with a good amount of salt and pepper. Now, I'm not a fan of salting meat, far ahead of time, but 45 minutes, that's totally fine, and it also even gives the chance for a little bit of moisture to be pulled up to the top of the steak, and it's going to help get a nice crust on the steak as well. I've already got my pesto made. You can find that on the website. So we're just going to let this come up to room temperature, and then we're going to cook it off on the grill. Okay, so we've got our flank steak here. Same rules apply to cooking steak on the grill as they do indoors. You want to get a smoking hot grill. Mine, I think, was registered 500 degrees or so. That's exactly what you want. Salt and pepper, we saw that. I also just put olive oil on both sides of the steak, and then lay it down. Again, don't touch it. We're just going to leave that to sear, get good and crusty, get those grill marks on one side. It's probably going to take, this is probably an 1.5 inch thick steak. I'm going to let it go for about 4 minutes on this side. Here, maybe 3 minutes because I like it rare. Then we'll flip it over. I'm going to let it go for generally half the time on the first side is what we're going to cook it on the second side. And then we're essentially going to be done. We'll just pull it off. We'll let it rest. I forgot. We're making the pesto steak. So we are going to coat the pesto on here. I don't particularly like to do it in the beginning because pesto burnt really doesn't taste all that good. So after we sear that side, I'm going to grab the pesto, we'll come back, we'll slather it on, and just kind of finish the steak with that pesto sauce, and that'll give it a great basil, garlicky taste. Absolutely delicious. We'll come back in about 3 minutes. Okay, so this steak has been going now for about 4 minutes, and I've got nice grill marks, good crust on there. You only get that if you don't touch the steak, so don't touch the steak. It's best if you move it to a new part of the grill, but for demo purposes, I'm going to leave it more in the camera angle. Now, with that nice crust, now's the time when we're going to add a little bit of our pesto sauce. Now, I'm going to do this in a couple applications. First one is right now. We're just going to lay this on, and this is going to just kind of bake in, sear in a little bit on the grill. I expect, a good amount of it just to kind of fall off and, not really stay on. But it's the first application. Then when we flip it over, I'm just going to flip it over one more time so I can put some pesto on the other side. We're going to do the same thing, and then we're going to put a final little application of the pesto right before we serve it. I'm going to let this go for another probably 3 minutes on this side, and then we'll be done. Okay, so my steak has been going now for another couple minutes. I just want to flip it over, get a little bit of char on that pesto on that side, but we're essentially done. I'm just going to lay a little bit of my pesto on this side, and really, I can turn off the heat at this point. Field test. I know my steak is pretty much where I want it. Again, just like cooking indoors, you got to let the steak rest. So, once we pull that off, or I'll turn the heat off right now, I'm just going to let this kind of bake in for another 30 seconds or so with the lid closed. Then we'll pull it off, we'll bring it back upstairs, and we'll be ready to slice it up. Okay, so our pesto flank steak just came off the grill. I've got it inside, but we have to let it rest just like all steaks. So I'm going to wrap it in aluminum foil, just let it sit for a good 5 minutes or so before we cut into it. Okay, after we've let our steak rest, time to cut. Now, flank steak always has a fairly defined grain to it. This one, the grain's running this way. So you want to cut against the grain, and that's going to help you get a more tender cut of meat. And I like to go, straight down. Let me twist it around a little bit for you. Just go straight down. Maybe 1/4 inch pieces, all the way down. And then we can go ahead and plate those up nicely fanned out on a plate. Oops. And of course, you can lay your sides down. I've got some asparagus and some potatoes coming, but you can also just dab it with a little bit more of that fresh pesto right on top. There's our flank steak with pesto. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.